A very lovely morning to you. You are watching Breakfast Central on Africa's, of course, biggest and richest television station, New Central TV. I am Osaugi Oboa. Thank you so much for joining us on a, pretty interesting Thursday morning right here.
And I am Olive Emodi. It's a beautiful Thursday indeed here on Breakfast Central as we take you through stories for the next 2 hours happening around the African continent. We do have a special person who's joining us as well much later to bring trend wave. It's definitely Elizabeth Musa's birthday, and we hope to be able to have her join us working on her birthday. I am Olive Emodi, and bringing us breakfast headlines this morning is Blessings Musugu.
That's me. Good morning, Olive. Good morning, Osaugi.
Good morning. Good morning.
What?
No, there's a behind the scenes joke that we'll tell you about when we get off camera.
Yeah, and I was gonna, start with, talking about times, different time zones across the continent, and then my brain froze for a second. It happens every now and then. Good morning, Blessings.
Good morning.
So much is happening around the continent, from South Africa to Nigeria. We're hoping to be able to touch on all these stories. And we know that you do have some of these big stories in the news, but let's first share what our top stories this morning are.
As this morning on the Pala Pala report, opposition threatens legal action.
It's non-stop drama, it seems. And in Kenya, the president increases civil servant salaries. Will this be able to match the current increase in cost of goods and services? We'll find out.
And in Nigeria, President Tinubu tenders Labour Party register as evidence against Peter Obi.
And back to the JAMB conversation here in Nigeria, alleged forgery. Fake result generating app sparks new twist.
In sports, Shakiri, Ogudiro, Amuso and others win national titles. Congratulations to them. All these and more this morning on Breakfast Central.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines on News Central Television with me, Blessings Musugu. Let's start in West Africa, where security and local sources say at least 15 civilians have been killed by suspected terrorists in Burkina Faso. A local official says terrorists carried out the attack early on Wednesday morning in Soka, in the eastern province of Nana. The attack was confirmed by a resident and security source. Now, in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima on Wednesday tendered a copy of the Labour Party membership register for Anambra State in proof of their claim that Peter Obi is not a registered member of the party. They had argued in their response to the petition by Obi and the Labour Party that Obi was not a member of the party as at the time of the last presidential election and consequently not qualified to have contested the last election on the platform of the Labour Party. The lawyer, Wole Olanipekun, tendered the document along with Labour Party's letter dated April 25, 2022, forwarding the membership register to the chairman of the Electoral Commission. And in Central Africa, residents say at least 8 people, including 5 women and 2 children, died on Wednesday in a new attack in DR Congo's troubled east. A worker with the local Red Cross says armed men attacked the village of Bungushu in North Kivu province overnight, killing 8 people. The official says at least 4 of them were hacked to death, and the bodies of 4 others were later found in pit latrines. Now to South Africa, where President Cyril Ramaphosa has succeeded in stopping his predecessor, Jacob Zuma, from privately prosecuting him. Zuma's private prosecution bid was brought forward on the eve of the ANC's 55th National Elective Conference in December last year. The former president accused his successor of being an accessory after the fact in the alleged leaking of his medical information. In East Africa, Ethiopia's Upper House of Parliament has approved the creation of a 12th regional state after the latest referendum for greater self-rule in Africa's second most populous country. In February, voters in part of the ethnically diverse southern nations, nationalities and peoples region, the SNNPR, overwhelmingly supported carving out their own state in a referendum. On Wednesday, the parliament says the creation of South Ethiopia region was approved with a unanimous vote by lawmakers. Now, this is the third new state created since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018. Well, that's all we have for you on the news at this hour. Olive, over to you.
Thank you very much, Blessings. It seems, the Election Petitions Tribunal drama is never ending. But of course, challenging the validity of Peter Obi's membership of the Labour Party, seems, a little weird, because I did see a document, stating the date where he resigned from the PDP, and I believe that he eventually joined, I would need to verify, but I think he joined Labour Party on the 27th of May, 2022. His lawyers, of course, also did speak yesterday and said that, that matter had been sorted out by the courts long ago, and so it's really just a distraction. But, fingers crossed, to see where this leads.
So, like, in all of these disputes, of course, you see people trying to pull their weight. Every single information they can get, they try to use it against the person. But looking at a time we are where everybody, people are prone to believe in things. Someone can take that now and without checking the validity or whatever veracity, and then just start spreading it about. But what matters at the end of the day is the truth.
And it's just important at the end of the day. It's court. We all know that the slightest technicality can flaw one's case fundamentally.
Yeah.
So his team have said that it's a non-issue, and we're just going to have to wait and see how this eventually turns out. But it's not surprising. These are the kind of things that are seen in court. But we do wish them all the best, and like we always say, let the best man win. Thank you so much, Blessings, for joining us. Thank you. All right. We will go through the papers this morning and see what's happening on the front pages of newspapers around Africa.
All right, we start in Kenya this morning on the Daily Nation, where it says, court deals Ruto a blow on new taxes. He, of course, has been trying to push a few new taxes in Kenya there, but it seems it's not going as smoothly as he had expected. Hold your horses. The High Court has extended orders blocking the implementation of the Finance Act 2023 for another 5 days, in a move that will see the taxman fail to collect up to 5.78 billion shillings, even as Tata trained his guns on the EPRA boss. On page 8, you can find more of that and see and understand better. And of course, a sad story there. It says a village mourns, and of course, pictures of the ones we lost. Just to quickly remind Kenyans that, here in Nigeria and across the continent, we're still waiting for updates on the Shakahola massacre, and of course, the deaths of those more than almost 200 people counted so far. Where is Pastor Reverend Ezekiel Daddy-Gio and the rest of them? And what are the updates on that case? Kenyans and of course the rest of the continent still waiting for more information. And we can also find here, of course, these pictures are people who died in the Londiani crash. A really sad story. We can also find at the top of the screen there, TSC advertises 20,000 posts for intern teachers in primary and junior secondary school. Reopening of Somalia border to be delayed. That's it with regard to security. And also in pensions, Treasury to go after counties over unpaid statutory deductions. Warden who faked the rescue of a girl he defiled has been jailed. And final story this morning. Kusi Ideas Festival goes to Botswana. NMG partners with Gaborone to host 5th Kusi edition part 2. These are the big stories on the Daily Nation this morning. Let's stay in the east and see what's in Uganda this morning.
All right. Daily Monitor, the front page in Uganda says government seeks fuel import monopoly ring-fenced. Under the proposal, Uganda National Oil Company will exclusively source petroleum and related products from Swiss-based Dutch Global Energy and commodities giant Vitol and UNOC will in turn sell to the more than 40 oil marketing firms in the country. There's a picture of some people sitting there. It says these are the 4 of the 5 policemen charged over by election mess, as regards the Bukedea polls. 5 missing as boat capsizes on Lake Victoria. That's not looking good. Best worst performing districts have been named. And we have World Bank upgrades Uganda's economic growth to 6.2%. We have 2 more stories here. Labs tighten DNA paternity testing rules. I'd like to see that. We've been seeing a lot more conversation about DNA paternity testing in this day and age where trust is a deficit that is lacking in a lot of relationships, and a number of people there's now a mindset that has been pushed about how men check your first child might not be your first child. People are cheating more than you know, and there have been women who have unfortunately done this. So there's a trust deficit. You want to say something?
Now, you said unfortunately. I'm just like, well, I'm not sure if that's the term, but
yeah, it's unfortunate, right? I don't think that cheating can be justified regardless of the gender. If you've committed to being with someone, at least be honest with them. It will never be right for men or for women.
I agree.
Yeah. And the final
regardless
story,
if you're 001 or not.
Sorry?
Regardless of if you're 001 or not.
Oh my goodness. Obio, please, we are sorry. Well, today relationships, it says, is virginity of value in today's relationships. Yet another controversial topic. It seems that this day and age, people seem to not like the conversation about. It seems that even people who are virgins would be embarrassed to admit that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Because we live in a society that shames people and makes them feel like for you to choose not to explore your sexuality, there's a problem with
Yeah, actually, I remember a podcast, that went viral a few months ago where one of the ladies, some of these podcasts in Lagos here, where she was basically shaming those who still haven't had premarital sex, and she basically was outrightly shaming them and saying, what are you doing with your life like that? I think I saw that. So I think those are some of the things that make it almost shameful to have kept yourself together sexually.
And I reiterate, I want to stand that it is not a thing of shame. So for people who haven't explored and who are deciding not to explore, and you should never be embarrassed about it, even though we live in a society that makes you feel like there's something wrong with you if you've not explored your sexuality.
Stay like me and keep yourself till marriage. All right, let's go to Nigeria this morning and see what's going on the This Day newspapers. PDP leadership in disarray as it fails to secure minority offices in National Assembly. G5 compromises party's leadership, steals the show, and also how other opposition parties sold out and went for the money. It's an interesting story there. You can also find here JAMB result. Osita Chidoka urges Mesoma to come clean and explain how she got fake result. This is getting embarrassing at this point.
Very embarrassing.
That's on page 35 on the This Day newspapers. We can also find here after Buhari, Tinubu wades into NUPRC NNA altercation over overlapping functions. Sets clear lines of operation pending PIA amendment. And final story here. Tinubu, Shettima and APC close defense in Obi Atiku's petitions. These are the big stories that we can share this morning on the This Day newspapers, but we're still here in Nigeria and seeing what that has for us.
All right, let's take you through the headlines. Big story talking about the APC crisis. Tinubu meets Adamu Omisore and resolves rift over principal officers. Endorses Akpabio and Abbas actions. Issues laid to rest is a family affair, says National Chairman. We're tired of saying people's family affairs. Stop making it public, please. Resolve your family affair issues within your family. President's men unhappy with chair. It's not about Adamu, but North, according to our next governor. Furor persists in aviation agencies over new directorates. What are these new directorates? Maybe we can have some time to talk about that before the week runs out. Subsidy removal. Kwara reverses to 5 working days. So, a number of states in Nigeria, when this thing happened, we talked about it on the show and said, okay, well, it might be a good idea. What are the implications? What are the upsides and the downsides of this? Because we're seeing a number of states jumping in on the trend, saying, oh, we've now reduced it to 3 working days or 4 working days, don't come to work again. Now they've reversed to 5 working days. Maybe the argument would be that they did that initially to allow people to settle in and ease into the change because it was a bit drastic. Yeah. But by now, people should have warmed up to the cost
the
of
reality.
things, and found a way around it.
Yeah, and of course, staying at home, isn't going to help. And it's not the community that has created the space for remote work a lot. And for people to be able to get work outside Nigeria, even remotely. So asking them to just stay at home, and work 3 times a week, doesn't make a lot of sense. If you look at the internally generated revenue of Kwara State, it's not the type that you can beat your chest and say, okay, well, if they work, only 3 days a week, it wouldn't change much, and we'll still be able to exactly. So makes no sense.
Right.
But yeah, I think they would know better.
Right, they will. We have final stories here. Okay, the forgery one. Mesoma makes U-turn. Okay, this is another two. It says Mesoma makes a U-turn and admits scoring 249 in JAMB.
No, but that has never been. I think these are clickbait, stories. It has never been news that she scored 249. So what she continuously said was when she scanned exactly, this is the result that she was shown, and the QR code also showed a different name. So there's been a lot of confusion. She also I think she also did mention that it was 249 that was eventually sent to her or something like that, or somebody else scanned it. I don't know what it was, but it's not news. The 249 figure is not news. I think that is really just clickbait.
Sentiment swept. All right. Dollar Videos forensic analysis has exposed Ganduje, says anti-graft agency. Pregnant woman dies as doctors begin strike in Nasarawa. This is rather unfortunate. Telecom's investment in Nigeria hits 56.7 trillion naira, according to Dan Bata. There's a photograph here. I'm not quite sure what's happening. People ride on a horse cart through a flooded street after heavy rainfall in Pakistan yesterday. I hope that this just reminds us about the impact of climate change and how we must make hay while the sun shines, literally, because the rainy season is a time of accounting, and our flooded roads and gutters and blocked drainages will tell the story of the floods we'll see. That's all that we can take this morning. We have more papers we'll look through when we get to the second hour of the show, but we'll go on a break to return and explore our top stories.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it, people who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories, because it's run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it right here at News Central TV, the stories that put Africa first. Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeats and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. We begin the conversations this morning in Kenya, where its President William Ruto, who proposed a 7 to 10 increase in salary for teachers, police officers, and others, of course, Kenyan defense officers and a few other civil servants in Lower Kada, has now put this into effect.
The president rejected a proposed salary increment for himself and other senior government officials floated by the Country's Salary and Remuneration Commission, SRC. Ruto also mentioned that salaries for senior government officials will remain redundant until SRC achieves international standards for rationalizing standards for all civil servants. Joining us this morning for more updates is Daniel Omide. He is a lead editor, Africa Blogging. Good morning, Daniel, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on the show.
All right, Daniel, what we're seeing here, according to the story, is saying that, he's proposed an increment for, he's proposed a 7 to 10% increase in salary for civil servants, and has also rejected an increment in salary for public officials. In a number of countries on the continent, we've seen that there have been arguments as to the government making sacrifices on behalf of the people as well for the common good. Do you think that the people of Kenya will see this as sacrifice enough, and will this increase be able to in any way match up to some level the increased cost of living in Kenya?
Well, I think that still looks like a drop in the ocean in terms of the cost of living in the country right now. From our previous conversations, even on this show, we've been discussing protests in Kenya as a result of the rise in cost of living. And remember that this only affects people who work for the government, the civil servants, people in the disciplined forces, that is the military and police, and also teachers. And the increases of we're talking about increase of 7 to 10% this year. The amount of increase or inflation in terms of the cost of living generally, even if you look at food alone, over the last 9 months has been something in that area. But if you're looking at it since the last salary review, the inflation in the country has been something to do with 30 or so percent. So this is sort of like still a drop in the ocean. And it's also just affecting those who work in the public sector. People who work in majority, the biggest employer in the country, of course, essentially skilled, the private sector as a whole. There are no similar, conversations happening in the private sector. In fact, this year, there was a call from during the Labor Day celebration, there was a call from the representative of the Workers' Union, the Secretary General of COTU, that's the local Workers' Union, and they asked the government to actually have a general increase across the board in terms of payments to all salaried workers, but the government rejected that proposal. So I think this, as much as it benefits people in the public sector, it still also disadvantages employees in the public sector. But even going over and above that, there have been other conversations that we've been having in the country. For instance, the recent finance bill 2023. Which introduced a raft of measures that are basically making Kenyans' life unbearable. And right now we have a case in court that seeks to stop the implementation of that particular finance bill. It succeeded. There's a court order barring the government from implementing that finance bill until that matter is heard. But at least for until the 10th of this month. But in a nutshell, the environment that we're operating in is that, one, the government has introduced a new tax called the housing tax. That's 1.5% of salary or gross salary of anybody who's employed and has a payslip in Kenya. Over and above that, the VAT on fuel has been increased from 8% to 16% in this year's national budget. So the net effect of the increase of VAT and fuel means that the price of fuel is going to have a knock-on effect of the prices of all other commodities and services that are rendered in this country. So essentially, we expect the cost of living is going to go high. So some of these measures, when you see that the government is saying that, we are rejecting salaries for senior government officials from the level of members of parliament, cabinet secretaries, permanent secretaries, and people, earning, $1 million shillings and above, or $10,000 shillings, and $10,000 rather and above. It's really not commensurate to the level of what the harm that some of these policies have done to, the general Kenyan citizen. So, and then there are also perception that some of them people view it that it's an attempt to sort of make it look like we are doing something, we are being responsive, we are not raising salaries of senior servants just to cushion them from some of these impacts of the current finance bill that we had to put the rest of the country through. But then also it is also very important to put into context the remarks of the body that's actually meant to review the salaries. It's called the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The Salary and Remuneration Commission chairperson says the president's remarks are actually just the remarks of an individual, because the Salaries and Remuneration Commission is an independent body. They are allowed by law not to respect the wishes of the president. So what that means is they can still go ahead and increase the salary of the president, even with the president, not saying that he wants that increase. And they said it would be up to the holder of that particular office to reject in their personal capacity and say, I am right to the SRC and say, I am rejecting this award for myself. But it will still be the remuneration for that particular office, because they argue that they are remunerating the office, not the office.
Clarify something, Daniel. Are you saying that regardless of the president's desires to have his salary increased or not, that the salary increment body can go ahead and still increase his salary?
Yes, they can go ahead, because this is an independent commission. Independent commissions do not take orders from any other arm of government. They do not take orders from the executive. They respect the judiciary, so they can listen to the judiciary, but they do not take orders. So unless it goes through a court process and then that's blocked at that particular level, maybe. But they are supposed not. I mean, in theory, they are not supposed to be under the beck and call of the president or any other arm of government.
That's interesting. But now let's talk about another aspect. Can Kenya afford this comfortably? The salary increments for these civil servants. Is this going to be something that would be sustainable? And can the government afford it?
Where we are at right now is we are a limping economy. The cost of living is very high. Even for the government to be able to deliver the basics that it wants to deliver to the citizenry, it has had to raise taxes in a lot of ways that actually, reduce what's in our pockets. For instance, if you are a salary employee and you've been earning 100,000 shillings, before the current financial year came into effect, 100,000 shillings, what it could do for you then, it can't do for you right now anymore. So you probably need 130,000 shillings for you to be where you were with 100,000 shillings last year. So we can't afford this, but you see, as much as the government is doing this, it is doing this through taxation. It's going back again and taxing the same people who are workers who are paid, and sometimes it's double or triple taxation, because once you tax on your salary, but then still you have to pay VAT on things like food items, some of which you are not paying VAT for. Right now there's the doubling of the VAT on fuel, so moving around the country is very difficult. People are choosing now not to drive to work, instead use public transport, sometimes use the trains, and sometimes it's not even easy because some of the places where people reside, it becomes a bit cumbersome, because our public transport network, it's also not as developed as it is in other countries. So that's why sometimes it's more convenient for people to drive to their places of work rather than use public. But those are some of the concessions that people we have to adjust. You have to adjust how you eat. You have to adjust, reduce on things that you couldn't consider necessities and concentrate on necessities. But we're also going to see like this, the effects of the current finance bill, or rather the budget that was just read the other day. We are going to see a lot of adjustments in terms of even, school fees, and we are still yet to feel the entire net effect of it. Just last week, or earlier this week on Monday, the Public Transport Association, they say they're going to increase fares for public transport buses and matatu. So we are yet to feel this, but to answer your question directly, can we afford this? We can't afford, because yes, the increment is for government workers, but the government workers are paid through taxes that majority of it comes from private sector.
Now, Ruto had already established some of the reasons for the finance bill being, of course, trying to ensure that they make provision for the government, the budget, to be able to bring money in from the government coffers without having to do a lot of reliance on external sources. The people of Kenya, of course, have been opposed to this. I want to ask if, we have started to feel the impact. How badly? I mean, you did give an example, but I want you to paint a clear picture of the impact of this bill on the lives of Kenyans. And is there a, proverbial light at the end of the tunnel? Do Kenyans foresee that light? IMF has come to praise William Ruto for his prompt response to the economic challenges that Kenya is facing after they promised, I think, $1 billion. I'm not quite sure. I need to confirm the figures. But are Kenyans excited about this? Is there a possibility, and is there hope for them that things will get better in the nearest future?
Of course, the excitement is the reason why the excitement is missing, because some of these measures directly reduce, the amount of money we go back home with at the end of the month. And for that to happen, and then we have this also coupled with, a rising cost of living. I am taking home less money than I was taking last month from the end of this month. That is an actual fact, because there will be a 1.5% deduction on my salary that goes towards the house allowance. The government now is mulling over to introduce a flat 2.7% rate when it comes to the National Health Insurance Fund. Again, that is going to hit my payslip. So it means by the end of the day, I'll be taking like a significantly reduced amount of money. But then there is no commensurate increase in terms of whatever is available. Right now, the government has reduced that increase, like you say, like we started earlier for public sector workers. But what about those of us who work in the private sector? That increase is not there. So it means that I am still going to have a net deficit in terms of what I take home. But over and above that, there is generally an increase in the prices of commodities. There's an increase in the prices of fuel. Like I said, there's an increase in the prices of general food items. And some of these are also going to have ripple effects. We are going to be paying more school fees, for instance, from next year, and things like that. So that's the way this directly affects Kenyans. And Kenyans are not happy. Tomorrow, Kenyans are going to be on the street. Yeah, quite a significant number of them. The 7th of July is a very important day when it comes to protests in Kenya. It's a significantly, before it was for protests against or protests for the people are making an acclaim for increasing of the democratic space, and because that was when we were under the presidency of former President Daniel Arap Moi, and which most people considered a dictatorship. And then when the opposition parties came into power and had that democratic space, and then the July 7th protests sort of died. But tomorrow we are having these protests coming back. And the reason why they're coming back because of people complaining about the cost of living, and opposition politicians are saying the government is not responsive to the demands and the realities of the lives of Kenyans right now. So next week the opposition is also saying that, look, we might go back to protest every Monday. So to force the government to listen to us and listen to Kenyans when it comes to the cost of living. So if the Kenyans were feeling that there was some light at the end of the tunnel, they would not be going to the street. Quarters here, you talk to economists, you talk to analysts, they'll tell you that some of these measures have a long-term effect that may be beneficial to us. We may reduce our foreign debt through getting more money from internally sourced revenue and using those to pay debts. We may use this money to fund some long-term development projects or medium to short-term development projects that then would then have the net effect of in producing our local production for food,
right.
Improving our infrastructure, and also bringing efficiency in terms of our energy supply and distribution.
Right.
But telling everybody right now of those macro benefits, sometimes for the ordinary Kenyan, it sounds like a very long shot.
Daniel, the 7th of July is just tomorrow. We, of course, will eventually wait to see how this protest turn out and how much impact they will have. Hopefully, we can have this conversation again tomorrow or sometime soon. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now let's move away from the east of the continent and head over to the south. Opposition parties in South Africa have attacked acting public protector after her report cleared President Cyril Ramaphosa of wrongdoing in the Phala Phala controversy. Kholeka Galeka released her findings on Friday, which concluded that Ramaphosa did not violate the Executive Ethics Code. Political parties, including the DA, EFF, and ATM, have then declared their intentions to approach the court to have the public protector's report reviewed and set aside.
The investigation was launched following a burglary at the farm in February 2020, during which it was claimed that the president attempted to cover up the theft of millions of dollars from his farm. According to the DA and ATM, the report is a sham that degrades the intelligence of South Africans, and based on the facts, Ramaphosa has a case to answer. And of course, this has been a conversation that we've had for, the longest time. Of course, we mentioned it did happen in 2020. The investigations have come, and of course, there have been different waves, basically, including the court case. But of course, it is expected that the opposition would reject this. We would expand on this conversation, hopefully, tomorrow or sometime next week, and bring in someone from the DA, to explain their side of their perspective of this Phala Phala report.
I mean, it's just taking very different unfortunate turns. Kholeka Galeka had come out with, she'd come out to talk about the findings of the report, clearing Cyril Ramaphosa of any wrongdoings. But what we've seen is there's been like a massive attack on her integrity, stating that if you can actually boldly come out to clear him of that report, then people of South Africa should ask you some questions as well. ANC has come to her defense. The Media Secretary General of the ANC has come to her defense, saying that it's undemocratic, the way that the people of South Africa have hounded her, and that if people are not comfortable with the report, they should take it to court and let the court have, the final say. But like you said, we hope that we can have a deeper conversation into this, inviting someone from the DA, to sort of give us further insight as to why this is happening, and ask her herself, what are some of to be able to share with us what are some of the findings that led to this clearing.
I did see a brief interview with her yesterday where she tried to clarify some misconceptions concerning the court case and concerning the investigation, but there's still a lot more that needs to be unmasked. And if South Africans themselves do not believe that thorough investigation or the right judgment has been given, then they would need to continue asking. And of course, President Ramaphosa will still continue to bear that weight on his shoulders, for quite a while.
Right. But she's handled it with some measure of grace. When she was asked, with the way people have been speaking up, she said, that's democracy. People of South Africa have the right to be able to say that they're not satisfied and to be able to complain. Now, another clarification that I wanted to highlight was, when she had said, part of the conversation was the president's ownership of Phala Phala, right, and his direct relation. So she's not saying that the president is not aware of the farm. But he wasn't working there. But the day-to-day running, the day-to-day operations, that they don't have sufficient evidence to tie him to the day-to-day operations. Like we say, with a number of cases, the slight technicalities sometimes are what can frustrate the main case. Yeah, it's law, basically. It is indeed. All right, let's move away from South Africa and move back here in Nigeria, where young parliamentarians have been tasked to improve their capacity in order to deliver quality representation and good governance to citizens. This was done during a capacity training session for young lawmakers in the nation's capital, Abuja, with the theme Convergence 5.0, expected to help them fulfill their campaign promises to the public. News Central's Marvelous Obomanu has more.
The section, which was organized under the platform Convergence 5.0, is a brainchild of the Yaga Africa. It is aimed at bringing together young legislators from across the country to learn from experts and seasoned lawmakers on how to navigate the muddy waters of politics in state houses of assembly and the federal parliament. Experts here educated the young parliamentarians on how to effectively deliver quality representation and build bridges.
Many of you who are going to the National Assembly, if you don't make inclusive laws and you become exclusive, the cost of inclusion is far more less than the cost of exclusion.
For us, convergence means coming together to review our action plan. I believe that before we came on board, there were a series of campaigns, there were a series of promises. Now is the time to deliver.
Youth, as we all know, are the backbone of our society. We should go together with youth in discharge of our duties because they are proud of us.
The primary objective should be to do your bit to deepen democracy, and this is incredibly important. People should not allow people to despair or playing the game of democracy, no matter how imperfect it is. And so it's better to have an imperfect democracy than to have no democracy at all.
All those exercising legislative, executive, and judicial powers, and other persons and authorities or groups exercising similar powers are all actually part of the government in Nigeria. And therefore, the next section, section 14.2 says, all those exercising these powers, have only two things primarily as to why they are in government: to promote the security and welfare of all people in Nigeria.
One expert urged the young parliamentarians to transcend from making laws, but to ensure their responsibilities reflect on improved security, livelihoods, and the welfare of all citizens. The executive director of the Yaga Africa revealed that efforts to get more young Nigerians voted into office through the Not Too Young to Run legislation was a success, as many youths were voted into office during the last general elections.
You have beneficiaries of Not Too Young to Run, and these are people who are under 30s, who are currently in the House of Reps, and there are two of them, and this is quite remarkable because this is the first time after the Not Too Young to Run legislation that you have young people who are first beneficiaries of the act.
And the question is, how do you then actually exercise this power and to enable you actually realize this constitutional obligation placed on you by Section 14.2b? Otherwise, you have no business in government.
The lecture series under the theme Convergence is aimed at developing the skills of young lawmakers and improving their capacity to help them deliver impactful governance to citizens. Marvelous Obomano, reporting for News Central.
Interesting report there. Thanks to Obomanu for that. And of course, we'll continue to deepen political conversations across Nigeria and beyond. Now, some secondary schools in Nigeria have taken a unique approach towards helping children from low-income families obtain an education through a flexible tuition payment plan that has parents paying less than 10% of the fees and the remainder being covered by sponsors and partners. We'll bring you details in this report.
Students in North Secondary School can now have access to quality education just for 100 naira a day, which is equal to about $0.25 a day. Prior to this, the chances of getting an education for most of the children were slim because of their family's limited income. But now, these children can access learning and school essentials for less than $5 a month with the pay-as-you-go tuition option. But now, these children can access learning and school essentials for less than $5 a month with the pay-as-you-go tuition option at North School.
Children like me from low-income family get free books, school uniforms, lunch daily, and the girls get sanitary pads monthly. I learned new things. I learned how to speak in public. I even improved in my mathematics.
For the parent, they are excited to have an affordable means of paying their children's tuition, as it gives them a chance to keep their children in school.
This one is helpful more than other schools that I would want them to go. To get that 100 naira, we find it a little bit difficult. But to God be the glory, being that is the cheapest way of enrolling our child to school. We find we be delighted to pay it, to pay it.
In response to the increasing numbers of out-of-school children in Nigeria, educators believe developing a flexible and affordable tuition option for children from low-income families will go a long way in keeping many children off the streets.
Families that, have limited resource, the priority will be food, medicine, shelter, and just basic living. And so what that means is that education and sending their children to school will be relegated at the background.
The number of out-of-school children in Nigeria stands at 18.5 million according to UNICEF. With over 40% of Nigeria's 200 million population living below the poverty line, many households cannot afford school fees. Experts advise the government to close the gap in Nigeria's education system while paying more attention to funding.
Funding of education is grossly inadequate, and it's a big challenge. Apart from that, manpower must be intentional and teachers training and continuous training.
Educationists, however, call on the government to work with relevant stakeholders to achieve the SDG goal of providing education for every child in Africa by addressing some of the systems that hinder the implementation of an effective education strategy.
Really interested there, and of course, I think everyone would agree that there needs to be other ways and pathways to funding education for young Nigerians, and of course for the poorest families. Not just taking loans now. I know that there's also ways that, of course, you could even participate in sports, of course, for free education or for education scholarships. But we'll talk about that at some other point.
I just also wanted to highlight how very heartbreaking it was to watch that report, to see that man say that it was very difficult to raise 100 naira a day for these kids to go to school. And that's because that is the reality of a number of Nigerians. Many of us are shielded from the reality of what it is, that these people have families to feed. So even raising that can be quite tough. Just again reminds us why we need to reevaluate our percentage, in terms of our education allocation for our budgets, right? And to also applaud NGOs that are doing amazing work. I know of a certain NGO, I think it's Teach for Nigeria. And what they do is they have like young people who come. So I could decide today that I want to volunteer for the next 6 months, and I'll go through their training, and then they would deploy me to a school where I could teach for free. So I'm hoping that more people can be encouraged, because we may not be able to wait on the government to do everything. There are parts that NGO civic organizations also might be able to help, and individuals as well.
I agree, 100%.
All right.
But we would expand, as always, on these conversations and encourage more, and maybe enlight on how funds, that are being allocated for student loans should probably be used to, fix the education system instead. Stay with us this morning. Let's get into the world of sports and share with you what's going on over there.
Thanks for staying with us. It's still Breakfast Central, and it's time for sports updates. We begin now from the national scene, where World 100 meters hurdles champion Toby Amusan won a fourth national title at the Nigerian trials in Benin in a time of 12.70 seconds. to win a third consecutive national title at the ongoing Nigerian trials in Benin. It is expected that the Athletics Federation of Nigeria is going to persuade the world champion to be part of the 4x100 meters relay squad as the team looks to solidify its position in securing its spot at the World Championships in Budapest. Meanwhile, Blessing Ogundiran clinched a first national title, emerging the new women's 100 meters champion. Canada-based Ishikiri won the men's 100 meters title at the Nigerian trials in Benin, becoming a two-time national champion. Ishikiri is Nigeria's fastest man for the year after clocking 10.02 seconds to win the national 100 meters title at the trials. Meanwhile, Chukwuebuka Enekweche successfully defended his Nigerian title, winning the men's shot put by throwing a distance of 21.09 meters. Enekweche has now won 4 Nigerian titles since the first one he won in 2016. Away from there to football matters, host nation and neighbors Namibia played to a 1-1 draw in their opening Group A match of the 2023 COSAFA Cup, played at the Kings Wellington Stadium in Durban on Wednesday. Elmo Kambindu gave Namibia the lead before Rowan Human leveled matters for South Africa. Botswana led the pool following the first round of matches after they beat Eswatini by a lone goal courtesy of Lebongang Disele's strike. Still talking football matters on the European scene, former Barcelona and Spain coach Luis Enrique has been appointed as the new coach of Paris Saint-Germain. The 53-year-old, who has been a free agent since being sacked as Spanish coach last December, replaces Christophe Galtier after his departure from the club was confirmed on Wednesday. Enrique's main goal will be to deliver the Champions League trophy, which has eluded the Qatari owners since they bought the club.
Bonjour. Tout d'abord, je vais remercier le club, la propriété, le président et le directeur sportif pour la confiance en moi. Je suis ravi d'être ici et j'espère pouvoir rendre cette confiance avec des trophées.
Espero poder devolver esta confianza que...
Je ne parle pas français, mais j'ai commencé.
Now, in the world of tennis, reigning men's singles champion Novak Djokovic bagged his 350th Grand Slam victory with a 6-3, 7-6, 7-4, 7-5 defeat of Australia's Jordan Thompson. The match of the day saw Greece's fifth seed Stefanos Tsitsipas complete a 5-set victory over former US Open winner Dominic Thiem, 3-6, 7-6, 7-1, 6-2, 6-7, 7-5, 7-6, 10-8 in a match that spread across 2 days. In the women's category, Iga Swiatek schooled Spain's Sara Sorribes Tomo 6-2, 6-love.
Well, center court of Wimbledon has been the most special court, without a doubt, for our tennis history. You know, we know the tradition, we know how long the Wimbledon dates back, and every time, I know I said this before and it sounds like a cliche, but I truly, try to marvel every moment, enjoy every moment I spend on the court. It is a huge privilege, especially, at this age, at this stage of my career, where I'm still trying to push forward with the young guns. I don't know how far and how long that's going to take, but so far so good, I must say. We have a very...
So far, so good for the reigning men's champion, talking about Novak Djokovic. We'll take a break right now. When we return, we'll have more sports updates for you. Please to stay tuned.
Sometimes, it's not just the distance we travel. It's the gaps we close. It's not the things we buy. It's the memories we create. Sometimes, It's beyond the places we go. It's the connections we make. Not just the things we taste. It's the taste of things to come. And it's never a question of if, but when. Because life is always just a bit better with American Express. Introducing the Access Bank American Express Gold Card and the Metal Platinum Card, now available through Access Bank.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, in the world of basketball, Milwaukee Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo's status for the FIBA World Cup is unknown, as the two-time NBA MVP has not yet been ruled out of this year's event, which begins August 25th in the Philippines. The Greek freak recently underwent a clean-off knee, though the team says he should be ready for training camp in September. Antetokounmpo has taken pride in representing Greece during the off-season, playing for the national team at both last summer's Eurobasket and again during the 2019 World Cup. And that's it on Sports Updates at this time. It's back to you, Oli.
Thank you very much for the sport updates. Congratulations to Novak Djokovic. We wish him the best with his career going forward.
Yep.
All right. We'll see you around as well.
Thank you so
Let's share with you the conversations we've had this morning on Breakfast Central. Pala Pala report, opposition threatened legal action, and we spoke about that, and we're waiting to see what becomes of that.
Yeah, and of course, an increase in civil servant salaries in Kenya. Of course, mixed reactions from President Ruto.
Shakiri Ogundiran Amusan Enekwechi win national titles, as well as all the sports stories. Well, let's share with you what's coming up next.
This morning, President Tinubu tenders a Labour Party register as evidence against Peter Obi.
Alleged forgery, fake results generating app sparks new twist. And of course, Ekiti government bans proposed 72-hour kissing marathon. Ekiti people.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
Once again, this is Breakfast Headlines on News Central Television with me, Blessings Osugu. And let's start in North Africa, where sub-Saharan African migrants attempted to flee the Sfax in Tunisia, where racial tension is flaring into targeted violence. Some of the migrants waited outside an inside Sfax station, trying to purchase tickets to Tunis amid racial tension in the coastal city. Amid the disturbances, police detained some migrants and deported them as far as the Libyan border, more than 300 kilometers away. Now, some of the migrants said they want to leave Sfax at all costs because they're scared of what might happen to them. In Kenya, authorities say they're delaying the planned reopening of the long-closed border with Somalia. The move follows a number of deadly attacks on its soil attributed to the militant group Al-Shabaab. Kenya's Interior Minister, Kithure Kindiki, says the phased reopening of border posts in Mandera, Lamu and Garissa along the lengthy frontier with Somalia would not go ahead in May. The decision comes after a murder of 5 civilians and the deaths of 8 police officers in Kenya in separate incidents near the border last month, blamed on Al-Shabaab. In West Africa now, the European Union's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Joseph Borrell, has described Niger Republic as an economic engine for the Sahel. Borrell's comments followed a meeting with President Mohamed Bazoum and other members of the European Commission's delegation at the start of a 2-day visit to the country. The visit will offer an opportunity to further strengthen the EU-Niger Republic partnership and to engage on a variety of bilateral, regional and global issues.
Le Niger est un partenaire solide, fiable, aussi bien du point de vue politique que sécuritaire. Et nous appuyons énormément avec toute notre force au président Bazoum. Nous appuyons sa vision régionale, sa vision du développement économique qui combine la sécurité avec la croissance, avec l'éducation. Le Niger est un moteur économique pour le Sahel. Un taux de croissance à 2 digits, presque 12%. C'est un moteur fondamental pour la région, l'énergie solaire. J'ai pu annoncer au président qu'il va y avoir un nouveau apport de 66 millions d'aides budgétaires directes et que dans la révision des perspectives financières que nous allons faire à Bruxelles dans les prochaines semaines, on va faire tout le possible pour en monter l'enveloppe totale que le Niger reçoit, qui est aux alentours de 500 millions d'euros pour les années 2021.
Now, security and local sources say at least 15 civilians have been killed by suspected terrorists in Burkina Faso. A local official says terrorists carried out the attack early on Wednesday morning in Soga, in the eastern province of Nana. The attack was confirmed by a resident and security sources. To Central Africa now, where residents say at least 8 people, including 5 women and 2 children, died on Wednesday in a new attack in DR Congo's troubled east. A worker with the local Red Cross says armed men attacked the village of Bungushu in North Kivu province overnight, killing 8 people. The official says at least 4 of them were hacked to death, and the bodies of 4 others were later found in pit latrines. And now moving to South Africa, where President Cyril Ramaphosa has succeeded in stopping his predecessor, Jacob Zuma, from privately prosecuting him. Zuma's private prosecution bid was brought forward on the eve of the ANC's 55th National Elective Conference in December last year. The former president accused his successor of being an accessory after the fact in the alleged leaking of his medical information. Well, that's all we have for you on the news at this hour. Olive and Osalge, it's back to you.
Very much. Blessings for those very interesting stories there, of course, from different parts of the continent. We will continue to monitor reactions to President Cyril Ramaphosa's story, of course, the Palapala report, and see where it leads into the coming week. Thanks a lot once again.
Thank you.
All right. Now, if you're just joining us, we, of course, normally have a quick journey across the continent to share with you what the major headlines are on the newspapers, and that's what we're doing right next.
With the Punch newspaper here in Nigeria, and on the front page of the Punch newspaper, flood alert. as if we knew that this was a conversation that was going to be had. State order evacuation as federal government issues disaster warning. NEMA warns of massive flood in Kano, Delta, KB, Plateau, and 10 others. Akwa Ibom, Delta, all the residents demand alternative shelters. UTME forgery, reps order probe, fraudulent app developer risks dismissal. Lagos killer cop dismissed for shooting generator repairer dead. Is dismissing enough? I don't know the details of the story, so I can't really comment on it. But if someone's killed for, someone's dismissed for shooting a generator repairer, I'm hoping that beyond him being dismissed, his dismissal is not as important as him going to court and going to jail.
I mean, but that's the thing that they always say, you know, that the person has been dismissed and then will now be made to face, you know, the law, because, you know, you cannot prosecute
as a police officer. Exactly. So that's why it's not really news for us. So what we want to hear is the person is being taken to court.
And here is the thing that I feel for a long time is lacking, or maybe I do not know enough of it. If we have the public prosecutor's office in Nigeria strong enough to represent the average Nigerian, when they say you have the right to remain silent and whatever they say, blah, 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 you have the right to an attorney and all of that. Do we have public prosecutors? Do we?
By the way, it's only
Well, I've never been arrested, you know. You know, I don't know if you have been.
Well, no, I've never been, but typically they only read Miranda rights abroad in Nigeria.
Abroad. In Nigeria, it doesn't work, right? Just a few slaps and you get into the vehicle. The point is, do we have, does Nigeria's legal system, you know, have people who represent the average Nigerian? You know, if a crime has been committed and the person cannot afford a lawyer, you know, does the Nigerian court provide you with that?
Yes, typically. So they have legal aid as well. They have the office of, if it's a crime, obviously. Once it's a crime, it's usually a crime against the state. In this case, you cannot forgive murder. You can't say, oh, typically you shouldn't be able to say, oh, I forgive you, let's let it go. The court will then provide, the state will sue and then provide a representative where you cannot afford one. Unfortunately, we then have a backlog sometimes. It's why there are too many indigent accused people that don't have access to representation. Some of them are then lounging in the prisons, unfortunately, lounging in quotes in the prisons because they don't have representation. And another valid point is, will they be able to get the quality of representation that is demanded for the case?
Exactly.
Not just, oh, let's just give you a lawyer.
Exactly. You know, so when you hear of for people who can't afford to have their own lawyer and to hire, you know, an SAN or hire, you know, even if not an SAN, you know, regular barrister or something, does Nigeria provide that? I honestly do not think so. You know, we would be wrong on this, but I don't think that Nigeria does.
Well,
I don't think Nigeria does enough, and that's why you might see cases like this, you know, continue to just be stalled, and, you know, these people would almost never be prosecuted or get the justice that they deserve.
And there are lawyers as well that do cases, you know,
pro bono,
because it's also one of the requirements. If you were to become an SA, and you have to show how many cases you've done pro bono. So it's just hoping that your case falls well within time and you find the right people to help. Final story this morning: Tinubu not indicted over forfeited $460,000. Bamidele tells Tribunal. That's all the story I can take this morning on the Punch newspaper. Let's head over to the next, The Guardian.
Still here in Nigeria, it says forex scarcity and naira devaluation, trouble in health sector as drugs and cost of care spike by 150%. And I want everyone to understand what is going on here in Nigeria. The cost of living in Nigeria is currently insane. The cost of food items is currently insane. The cost of education, the cost of healthcare, it is insane. The cost of petrol, the cost of electricity. And when we're talking about how the average Nigerian copes, these are some of the things that should be pointed at. How does the average Nigerian assess quality healthcare if they cannot buy drugs or they cannot pay their hospital bills, easily like this? It is frightening. It is really, really frightening seeing what the average Nigerian, is dealing with.
This is a country where some years ago, even at Aso Rock, they didn't have basic things like paracetamol and basic things. So before the healthcare spiked, it was already hard. We don't have enough health insurance to be able to cover people.
There's the NHIS, but my point is Nigerians cannot afford any of these things anymore. That's the point that I'm making. And we're talking about the average Nigerian.
That's
You
why
cannot afford these
like
things.
The so-called chemists will continue to thrive, even though people are looking for medicine. They need to be able to find. It's why they'll be self-medicating, taking over-the-counter medication, because the cost of going to hospitals where they'll get proper care.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous now.
Still on The Guardian, Akpabio under pressure faces uproar over uneven distribution of 500 billion naira loan to SMEs. Also, UTM FLNG meets Tinubu on new gas plant, promises, to crash prices. SGF governors, editors hail the flagship at 40. Not very many stories on The Guardian, but these are the stories that we can share. Still in Nigeria, let's see what we can find on the Nation newspapers.
All right, on the front page of the Nation, Discos intensify efforts for electricity tariffs hike approval. Distribution companies weighing option of gradual increase in what consumers pay. Thank you very much. Gradual increase makes sense rather than a radical increase. Nigerians cannot handle any more of this pressure. Fuel prices increase, food, transportation increase, healthcare spiked by 150%, and now Discos would add to that. If they'll be kind enough to ease us into these increments. Senate Minority Leader, we will build viral opposition, our nominations in order. President meets Adamu Omisore on page 4. Obi, not Labour Party member when nominated, Tinubu tells tribunal. President and APC lawyers tender Labour Party membership register and close defense. Lagos records 111 defilement cases. Yet again, it's important to talk about the work that the Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team does and other NGOs who are constantly pushing and leading the fight against sexual abuse, and to talk to families that you must start to realize that a lot of these defilement cases start from the family, because most people will be abused by people that know them, not people from outside. First, they'll be abused by people who know them. So I hope that the culture of shame and silence can be lifted and we can start to look inwards. Kwara returns to full working week. Anyim Metu visits Tinubu OK's president reforms. Work stalled on 24 billion naira Oshogbo Iworo Ibadan Road. UTM FLNG to build 1.5 million tons floating gas plant. I think that's all that we can take this morning. Let's squeeze in the Newsday from Zimbabwe.
The Newsday this morning says here, police ban Chamisa rally.
Why are they banning his rally?
Well, it says in another big blow on efforts to level the political playing field ahead of the August 23rd harmonized elections, police in Masvingo province yesterday banned opposition Citizens Coalition for Change campaign's rally and fired tear gas canisters to disperse hundreds of party supporters gathered for the event. Sad turn of events there. And also, government to review education curricula, Chiwenga says on page 2. Tyson out of the race, that's ZANU PF is saying. Or as always, the Newsday doesn't carry a lot. But these are the stories that we can share this morning across the newspapers. Let's get into bigger conversations now in our top stories coming up next.
Our youth are the most important national asset that we have.
Did you hear the stories of Africans who fought for their independence, bringing a wave of 30 free countries in just 10 years? Did you hear the heroes who fought battles that are just like yours? They courageously marched against bad governance, police brutality, and oppression. You're not the first in these battlefields.
Amazon is in green. Camacho Quinn second from the left. The Olympic champion's been left a little bit at the start by Armstrong.
Those stories may be hard to find in the mix of foreign priority, perspective and agenda, but our stories will definitely find future generations. The fearless tomorrow will know the battles that we are fighting and the giant strides we're making in technology, art, music, movies, business, and more. They will know our wins and losses, our stories, and the influences of our evolving and diverse cultures. They'll learn from our mistakes, appreciate our progress, and build on success. With our stories and their relentless ambition, we will be closer to the Africa of our dreams. Because whatever happens today across Africa, News Central will amplify those stories that define our times. News Central Television. We are Africa First.
You wake up to a lot of stories about Africa.
But this is where you get the story straight.
Where we explore different angles because we understand our stories.
There's that passion when it's your perspective and not a distant perception.
I know you hear it a lot, but it's true. Nobody can tell your story better than you.
That's what we do.
All day, every day,
on News Central TV.
Our African stories by Africans for Africans.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima on Wednesday tendered a copy of the Labour Party membership register for Anambra State in proof of their claim that Peter Obi is not a registered member of the Labour Party.
Tinubu and Shettima had argued in their response to the petition by Obi and the Labour Party that not being a member of the party as at the time of the last presidential election, Obi was not qualified to have contested the last election on the platform of the Labour Party. Joining us this morning is Nelson Ekujumi, Executive Director, Center for Social and Economic Rights, CSER. He joins us to dissect this new update. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Responsibility. And we must also commend the tribunal for sticking to the time frame it has given to the various litigants. But the petitioners or the respondents, we have seen them all come to the tribunal with their evidences that they have, and the tribunal in its wisdom has admitted almost every and anything that anybody is bringing. It is now when time comes for delivering judgment that the tribunal will separate the wheat from the chaff. So far so good. The tribunal has done tremendously well. This is what is expected of any judicial umpire. To hear from, we have this saying in our land here as the Africans. To dispense justice, you must hear from all parties to a dispute. That is exactly what the tribunal is doing so far.
Okay, and then of course the bone of contention as of yesterday, there were a couple of things that of course were deliberated yesterday. Witnesses were called and in cross-examined by both sides. But of course, one of the things we'll talk about this morning is challenging Peter Obi's membership of the Labour Party. Some people have described it as a non-issue, including Peter Obi's legal representatives. Of course, it has been, taken to the High Court before, I believe, and has already been settled. So, do you think that this is a distraction, or is something that really should be looked at by the court?
Oh, every issue with regards to the submissions of litigants and their clients has to be looked into by the tribunal. Don't forget, the respondents in bringing up that position yesterday, cited the provisions of the Electoral Act. And you and I, as we sit here, are very, very much aware that whatever judgment the tribunal is going to give is with regards to provisions of the Electoral Act. The tribunal is not going to come up, with its own rules on what should be. The tribunal or the judiciary, its responsibility is to uphold the law. And how does it uphold the law? It is to look at what does the law say. And have you complied with the law? If you are complied with the law, that is well and good. But if at any point of, argument or submission of documents, and when, sieving through, the tribunal finds out that, according to Section A, you are in breach of it, then definitely the tribunal will give judgment against you. So any or every evidence or any issue that any of the parties are bringing to the tribunal, you can see that the tribunal is taking them in. We should all be patient to wait till the tribunal give judgment. Then, whether a judgment has been given with regards to that case in the past, don't forget that judgment was at the High Court. Those opposing side could have as well gone to the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. But if they are bringing this again to the tribunal, well and good. That is to tell you clearly that the tribunal is giving everybody a fair hearing, that come and say your own. Bring your facts to substantiate whatever you are bringing to us. It is our responsibility to look at what does the law says, and then we'll do justice to it.
Well, there's the argument that it is a pre-election matter also, and so I'm just putting in views of people who say that this is a distraction and a waste of time. Of course, you may not agree, and nobody needs to agree with that. But there's the argument that it is a pre-election matter, and so it is statute barred. And so does that then push for more, of the argument that it's a waste of time?
Well, I don't think it's a waste of time. Don't forget, the tribunal has given the respondents about 12 days, to open and close their case. And, within a day, they have just done that. Whatever anybody likes, they are free to say. Opinions are free. It is the responsibility of the tribunal. The tribunal has a time frame with regards to when it should dispense with a electoral dispute. The tribunal is guided by the Constitution and the Electoral Act. We must get that clear. So whether you are voicing an opinion that this is a waste of time or this is not a waste of time, that should be left for the tribunal to decide. But as a Democrat, we are all free, to voice our opinions on this issue. But the ultimate decider will be the tribunal. It is the tribunal now that will decide whether it is a waste of time or it's a frivolous exercise or it was worthwhile. So it is within the purview of the tribunal to give a judicial, decision on that.
All right. And also, I'd like you to react to those who say that this is also a matter that had been taken to court before and had already been decided. And I'd like you to react to that as well.
Yes, I said earlier on that even if the cases have been taken to court, don't forget, the court is a regular court. This is a tribunal for adjudicating on electoral matters. Whether pre or election day proper, all these are issues that you can bring to the tribunal. In dispensing justice, the tribunal will be guided by the Electoral Act as well as the Constitution. And the tribunal will say, oh, this matter you have brought before us is not supposed to come before us. This is our area of focus. But as a tribunal that wants to be seen as fair and has been focused on justice, it is within their powers to say, okay, bring whatever you have. Even you have seen that some of the materials or some of the evidences that have been tendered by some of the parties have been objected by the other side. But the tribunal has said, okay, bring everything, let us take it in, we'll do the needful. That is our own responsibility. Yours is to avail us your fact. Ours is to look into it and do the needful as prescribed by law.
All right, Mr. Akujumi, I would like you to also react to the EU election observance mission's report that basically stated that the elections that happened in Nigeria cannot be considered to have been credible. It says there can be no confidence in the results of these elections. I want your quick reactions to that. I remember that Dele Alake, of course, has spoken and also shared his views on that. But what are your thoughts? And do you think that the EU got these statements right from their analysis?
I think I want to align myself with the presidential. The EU position on the 2023 election was jaundiced, because if you look at the parameters used to arrive at this conclusion, it is absurd, it is laughable. An election was conducted in 176,606 polling units across 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. And the EU has said they had 11 analysts in Abuja and 40 election observers. And later on we got to know that all the observers or analysts they have in total was just about 110. You yourself, if you are a good student of history, as a research methodology student, you and I know what is called reliability and validity in research. If you are researching into an issue, what you are first of all asked to do majorly is to ensure that your target sample size is proportionate to the population you want to sample, because we and I know very well that because of time and because of resources, you cannot get to every nook and cranny. But you take a sample size that will be representative of the population you are conducting your research on. I want Nigerians to look at, to juxtapose whether 51 or 110 vis-a-vis 176,000. Does that make arithmetical sense? Absolutely not. I wonder how they arrived at that position.
Yeah, but not all of the...
Just a minute, hold on, just a minute.
All right.
But like some of us have said, election observers, both locally and internationally, were were accredited to observe that election. And we have all written a report, even including yours sincerely. I have written a report with regards to the observation of my group that was accredited by INEC. And we have submitted a report to INEC. And we have made a recommendation. But to come and say, based on 110, that election is flawed, that the election is not ready, I think the EU need to go and sit down and read what the Electoral Act of Nigeria says, for them to be in tune with the provisions with regards to our electoral laws, and stop speaking in the air on issues that they have exhibited absolute ignorance.
Yeah, but some of the things that were mentioned by the EU's mission don't necessarily need, to have 100,000 people monitoring the elections to see that. For example, the reinstatement of Senator Ahmed Lawan, which was mentioned. Of course, the lack of IREV being used for the presidential election results. Everybody could see that glaringly. We didn't need EU to be spread across the whole country to see that election results were not, uploaded on the IREV. And so there's a couple of things that they mentioned that, obviously were not, cannot be disputed. These are clear facts, and can you also share some of your recommendations? You mentioned that you were part of the groups that had your own observation mission. So can you share some of the recommendations that you also made?
Before I give you my own recommendations, I think it is appropriate for me to respond to what you have said. One, the responsibility of INEC is to conduct elections. The responsibility of INEC is not to determine which candidate Party A or Party B brings. The former Senate President's candidature was affirmed by a court of law, and you and I know that INEC is a legal body, is a body set up by law. Once a party submits the name of a candidate, so long as the candidate meets the deadline of INEC, INEC is duty bound to accept such candidate. It was not INEC that reinstated Senator Ahmed Lawan, it was the court. So if anybody has problem with the candidature of Senator Ahmed Lawan, you should go to the court. That one is very clear. Then you talked about the IREV. The IREV is an electronic device that INEC has the liberty to upload results. But our electoral law is very, very clear that on election day, at the conclusion of collation of results are the scores of each political party are entered into a result sheet called Form EC8A, and that result sheet is signed by the electoral officer, countersigned by the party agent's president, as well as the security agent president. And the parties are all giving of that result sheet. So, as we speak, the parties in court before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, if you have been following it, not one of them has come out with a result sheet from one polling unit to say the result on this polling unit, it is with what has been declared, at variance, that the result has been tampered with. Not one of the petitioners, I tell you, that INEC has conformed with the provisions of the Electoral Act. If you are talking about INEC, I'm sure you are aware of the judgment of the Supreme Court with regards to the Osun State gubernatorial election of 2022, where the issue of INEC also came up. And I'm sure if anybody is in doubt, I want to beg that person to go and read the judgment of the Supreme Court in that regard. Yes, with regards to my own organization, what we did, my organization that I observed the election with, of which I was the head of media and mobilization, is Voters Awareness Initiative, one of our parent civil society organizations. And one of our recommendations was that there is need for INEC to up its game with regards to the logistic challenge that has become a recurring decimal. Another of our recommendations is that INEC should ensure that she avails personnel majorly with election points days before the election. We also, as part of our recommendation, called for increased voter sensitization and education, whereby voters will know where they are to vote on election day, rather than somebody getting to election points on election day only to be told that, no, this is not your polling unit. And such voters become traumatized or disturbed because they want to exercise their franchise, but they don't know where they are to vote. So we have asked for electronic or technological, improvements in terms of the engagements between INEC and, the voters.
In addition to some of these recommendations that you've made, would you also agree with the EU in terms of Nigerians having been in some measure disenfranchised when it comes to being allowed to vote? Now, I'm going to quote something that was said. It says Nigeria's law, of course, allows registration up to like 90 days before the elections, but that the possibility, INEC closed the possibility over 6 months before the election day. Now, EU says that no temporary mechanism was adopted to avoid this disenfranchisement of citizens. Is this a position that you or your organization would maybe agree with?
Well, my observation with regards to that is that INEC as a body is bound by law. The Electoral Act or the Constitution stipulates when INEC registration of voters must close, and INEC was in tune with that. So part of the recommendations of the EU that they have said is with regards to fine-tuning the electoral laws. If we say we want to allow the electoral law to be amended in such a way that voters can still register up to 30 days before the election, that is our responsibility as a people, and to take to the National Assembly. That is not the role of INEC. INEC's role is to enforce the law. What does the law say as we speak? The law stipulates very clearly that the registration of voters must end XY days before election. And that was exactly what INEC did. INEC didn't make that law. So if we want a change in that law, like the EU is trying to advocate, it is our responsibility as Nigerians, as part of our civic engagement, to go to INEC and say, okay, the election days before, the registration of voters before election needs to be amended. We need to allow more Nigerians, to come, to be able to perform their civic responsibility. That is not too much to ask. But
absolutely.
Want to hold INEC responsible, I disagree absolutely.
Yeah, well, Mr. Ikujumi, you mentioned one of your recommendations was, that Nigerians should be, guided properly as to where their polling unit voting stations are so that they are not traumatized or some of that sort. But I want to ask if you can say outrightly that was one of the biggest problems in the just concluded elections. If your observance and from some of the things that you monitored, you can give us statistics that show that 60%, 70%, 80%, of Nigerians that were trying to vote couldn't find their polling units. Is that one of the things that you would describe as one of the... And the reason I'm asking is because you have said that the EU doesn't have enough spread across the country to show that they were able to cover the elections properly and be given recommendations. So can you share with us, percentage of Nigerians who didn't know where their polling unit was? They were confused and they were traumatized. And so that was why that became, for you, the recommendation that should be made towards INEC, seeing the other plethora of issues that happened during the elections.
Well, for your information, that research cannot be carried out because the responsibility we had on election day with the voters was to observe the election. And as part of our observation, we noticed that.
But I get that. I'm saying for you to be making a recommendation, you must have seen that it happened in a large number of places. So can you give us an idea?
Okay, if you want to ask me, I don't think those that had this issue was up to 5%, if you ask me, because my group was not only the one that observed this lacuna. We also had interactions with other civil society organizations, as well as monitoring, a reportage via the media. And the truth of the matter is that, go and look at these 2 elections. Almost 90% of the people that came to polling unit to vote on election day are the same people that have voted in 2 previous elections. The additions you have is not up to 5% of new voters.
So what you're saying now is that the statistics show that was not an election issue at all. At least it wasn't big enough for it to be made a recommendation by your group. But did your group make any recommendations? Did you notice anything concerning violence during the elections? Did your group notice anything like that? Did your group notice anything concerning failure of results to be uploaded on iRev, and was that part of your recommendations also?
Part of our recommendations was that we got reports from observers about violence at polling stations, and we called on the security agencies to rise to the occasion, because the security of the election is not the responsibility of INEC. The security of the election is the responsibility of the security agencies. So we must not mix that up. We have seen situations where INEC has postponed elections because of security threats. That tells you clearly that INEC is supposed to work with the security agencies. And if INEC has gone to a polling center to set up and they are threatened, the INEC personnel are human beings. They also run for their dear lives, like the videos are showing, like every other person is running, because the INEC personnel don't have 2 lives. The issue about voters not being able to identify their polling unit is a critical one, because even if it is one voter, no voter deserves to be denied the right to exercise his franchise.
All right.
That is why even if it's 2 people we saw on that day, we made that recommendation that these 2 Nigerians were unable to.
Great. And so the EU should then be allowed to make the recommendations, even if you had 13 cases, even if you had 3 cases that the EU noticed these issues that they've made the recommendations on. Shouldn't they also be allowed to make the recommendation, even if it's one person, Mr. Ikujumi?
The truth of the matter is that the EU cannot arrive at a general assessment based on their statistics of 110 observers.
All right. Unfortunately,
So they should tell us the percentage of people that they used to arrive at their conclusion.
All right.
Then we take them serious.
All right, Mr. Ikujumi, it's always interesting speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I look forward to having you again. If you will, we would like that you share a link of your recommendations with us, so that we can also look through it and bring you back again. Thanks for your time.
I will.
Thank you very much for joining us. All right. Now let's share with you the story of Miss Omar, the young girl who allegedly falsified her JAMB result to make her the highest scoring candidate. And this is still driving conversations on and offline. While investigations are ongoing, a new app which apparently can be used to generate fake results has been demonstrated on social media, making this trending story more interesting. News Central's Bernard Akeli has more.
Her story has been trending for the past 3 days. Ejikeme Mesoma, the student who was accused of publicizing a fake JAMB result which portrays her as the highest scoring candidate, refused to get off all news tables.
I went to JAMB portal to print these results, and this is what they gave me.
While her touching story earned her sympathizers, there are those who believe there is more to this than meets the eye. In a new turn of events, another video surfaced on TikTok where a lady speaks of an app that can be used to generate fake JAMB results.
Where your scores in English, I put 100. I want to give myself English 100. Your scores in physics, okay. All the other scores, let me just give myself 100, 100. So that will be fast. It's all the subjects these are all the subjects you took. Now which year? Let me put 2023. And then you valid review. Guys, this is me. This is my JAMB results.
After checking through app stores, JAMB Fun, which seems to be the name of this mysterious app, couldn't be found. But if truly an app of this nature does exist, then Mesoma certainly may have more questions to answer. While speaking earlier on News Central's News Bulletin, spokesperson for JAM, Fabian Benjamin, explained that the slip generated by Mmesoma was different from what other candidates have, suggesting it was forged by her.
Looking at our system, you will notice that this same candidate paid 1,500 naira and printed her original results, which comes with a picture. On the 25th of June, she also printed the original result that comes with a picture and the score of 249. But you can see in all transactions that she's having with the public, she did not display that result at any time.
Mmesoma now seems to be soft pedaling on her initial stand. In a news interview on another news station, she said, "After all said and done, I now saw that I had 249. I sent them a text message there, the JAM support system, to know what really happened. If they go to their system, they will see it there." The registrar of JAM, Professor Ishak Oloyede, spoke on investigation and said, "The truth is that JAM has concluded its investigation on Mmesoma's score falsification matter. She was not the only one caught, just that others have chosen not to go out. Presently, industry faking results, and unfortunately, they cannot penetrate the JAM system. The reason is that the system is foolproof, and we will prove it at any time." Mmesoma has since been suspended from writing the JAM exams for the next 3 years. But whichever way this ends, both JAM as an exam body and future candidates who intend to write this examination definitely have lessons to learn. Bernard Akede, reporting for News Central.
Well, quite an interesting one. JAM has said they've concluded investigations. We are just going to have to wait and see how this turns out. Let's share with you what's still to come this morning on Breakfast Central.
As this morning, Hizbah officials shave youth's hair to promote Islamic values.
And we share with you what our top story this morning of the day is. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now it's time for us to share with you what's trending. And we do have Elizabeth Amusa who will be on standby for that. But let's quickly share with you what's trending for us here on Breakfast Central.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Liz. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Liz. I think you're so beautiful. God bless you and keep you and cause face to shine on you. And welcome to 30.
Happy birthday, Liz. Cheers to a new age, and I wish you the best of everything.
Birthday to you. Wish you lovely years ahead in happiness and joy and fulfillment and refreshing joy.
Listen, I wish you long life and prosperity, more money this new year.
Happy birthday, Liz. All right, you go first.
You're amazing. Keep growing, keep glowing, and just keep basking in the goodness of God. Love you.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of how hard you work. Thank you for all the effort that you put into making our show a success. You're amazing. And I love having those early morning rides to work. Love you, girl. Welcome to the good life. Hello, Liz. Happy birthday.
Oh my goodness. I didn't see that coming. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Liz.
Thank you so much. Osaoge, why are you not in that video? I'm here to drag you.
I was, it was just too awesome. They couldn't edit it.
Thank you so much, Olive. Thank you so much, everyone that put this together. I really appreciate it. I didn't see that coming at all.
Whilst your birthday is trending, I know there are other things that are trending in the news, so share with us what's trending.
Of course. Let's start today in Borno State, where the Hisbah police in Borno State have set the internet space agog after its personnel shaved off the hairs of several youth in the state, claiming that their hair forms and values of the people of Borno State. Now, let me tell you what's interesting. The Islamic police in a statement said the haircuts were carried out at various areas of Maiduguri during the just concluded Salah celebration. According to the spokesperson of the body, Ibrahim Abdul Kadiri, the hairstyles violate the good morals, the ethics, and the culture of the people of Borno State, Nigeria. Well, this isn't the first time the Hisbah group will be involved in something of this nature, and despite several condemnations by Nigerians, the group has continued its push for an Islamic agenda in the northern part of Nigeria, banning stylish haircuts, sagging of trousers, DJs playing music at social events, and even tricycle riders from beautifying their vehicles with pictures considered to be indecent and against the tenets of Islam in some states in the north. Well, let's take a look at how people are reacting to this story on social media. That's a comment from Savvy Renew. Savvy Renew says, child marriage, that one is not against the moral and ethics. And then she's asking a question. Let's take a look at more reactions to this. Official Music says this is a complete violation of human rights, and the same people do the most inhuman thing behind closed doors. Imagine still living in 1607 inside 2023. Very backward. And that's according to Official Music. Onyegbu says, remove Christianity and Islam from Africa and witness a new continent. These foreign fairy tales are a serious pandemic. Well, that's as much as we can take on this story. We move now to what we've been talking about. I mean, everybody's talking about the cookathon here, kissathon here, sleepathon here, readathon. But ever since the groundbreaking exploit of Hilda Bassi, the Nigerian chef who broke records for the longest cooking time by an individual, a lot of people have been trying and attempting to set a world record for themselves too. Now, the Ekiti state government has kicked against a proposed 3-day kissing marathon by a group of individuals identified as Sugar Tea, who intend to set the Guinness World Record for the longest kissing run. Interesting, right? The attention of the state government was brought to the scheduled event in an advert trending in the state and social media and was scheduled to start on July 7, which is tomorrow, in a popular amusement park in the state capital of Ado Ekiti. In response to this, the state government, through the Ministry of Arts and Culture, issued a letter to the Ekiti State Hoteliers Association announcing a ban on the proposed competition, also saying that any facility that hosts the event will be severely sanctioned. This has left so many tongues wagging ever since this news broke, but we'll take a look at how people are reacting to this story on social media. That's a comment from Kudis. Kudis says, Nigerians must abuse every opportunity. I'm sure Guinness Book of Record will be shocked at our level of reasoning in this country. And Walashi, that's saying you're doing too much. John Wick goes on to say, at some point, Nigerian government will put a peg on this nuisance the citizens are putting themselves into. Come on now, waiting with this one again. Obviously, this person has had enough. The girl goes on to say, what is going on in Ekiti State? What's up with their citizens? Them just won't break that record by all means. Of course, we know that a lot of things have been happening ever since Hilda Bassi decided to break this record for cooking. Ekiti State has been on the roll. Son of Janet says, it is good that the government of Ekiti State stopped the Guinness World Record kissathon attempt. There must be something in the air that they nail in that state. I think that's quite interesting. But I must really commend Nigerians for this effort, trying to break records and all of that. But I'm just like, did the knowledge of this Guinness World Record just come in the mind of many Nigerians? Because why is it that it's now that they're all trying to break one record or the other? And I think some of the records are even a bit unusual. They're a bit, I'm just wondering like what's going on here. But I must really commend some of the people that have gone ahead to try to break one good record or the other. I mean, yesterday we had that of the lady who decided to go on a massageathon and then she collapsed. And I'm wondering what is going on. I'm sure you have many thoughts here.
I support the lady who went, the masseuse who tried but unfortunately collapsed. I hope that she can find her way back. There are some competitions that have made sense, but really people should calm down. The endless cookathons can rest. Someone said that now that Nigerians have found Guinness Book of World Records, that Nigeria would tear the book.
Tear the book.
But yes, we really need to calm down.
I said, as Nigerians like to do, they like to milk the cow until its others start to produce kata.
I was actually thinking both of you could try to do like a present-a-thon, like maybe continue.
We'll think about it. Thank you so much, Liz, for joining us this morning for Trend Wave. And once again, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Now, let's quickly, just before we go, share with you what's coming up later today on News Central TV.
At 11 a.m. West African time, we bring you Business Edge.
5 p.m. West African time, it is Report Desk Africa coming your way.
And Politics HQ comes your way 7 p.m. West African time. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining us on a Thursday edition of Breakfast Central. It's been a great time, and we look forward to seeing you on the final work day of the week tomorrow. I'm Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawa. Happy birthday to Liz once again. And
one more happy birthday.
And Sally. I have to like 3 people.
Yeah.
Ogbawa, my sister-in-law, and Sally, and Liz Musa. Yeah.
And happy birthday to RMD Richard Bufedamijo, who's not just a mentor to many people, but someone I consider a father. God bless you. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Hey lovers, my name is Sharon Ojai-Grube.
Hi guys, my name is Femi Adebayo.
My name is Anado Adige. Siabo Ojo.
Steve Chicks, I'm an actor.
Uche Montana.
Popularly known me as Neo Energy. My name is Neo Mobak Bofre.